Ladies and gentlemen, Asian guy here. We have spent hours talking about repo markets. We have talked about bond yields, force majeure, and geopolitical chess. We have crunched the numbers until our eyes bled. But now I want to put the charts away. I want to put the calculator down. I want to talk to you. I want to talk to the person who is watching this video alone in their office, or in their garage, or with headphones on so their spouse doesn't hear. I want to talk to the person who has been buying silver for 5 years, 10 years, maybe 20 years. I want to talk to the person who has been called crazy more times than they can count. This report is for you. This is your vindication. Think back to the Thanksgiving dinners. Think back to the Christmas parties. You know the moment. The topic turns to money. Your brother-in-law starts bragging about his Tesla stock. Your cousin starts talking about how much he made on Dogecoin. Your financial advisor tells you that you are diversified because you own an S&P 500 index fund. And then you speak up. You say, actually, I think the system is fragile. I'm buying silver. The room goes silent. They look at you with that mix of pity and annoyance. Silver? They say. Why would you buy that? It hasn't moved in 10 years. It's a pet rock. John Maynard Keynes called it a barbarous relic. You're missing out on the AI boom. You're being paranoid. You're a doomer. They laughed at you. Maybe not to your face, but behind your back. They called you tinfoil hat. They called you a conspiracy theorist. They treated you like you were part of a cult. They gaslighted you into thinking that you were the crazy one for wanting to hold an asset with 5,000 years of history, while they were the sane ones for holding digital tokens created by a central bank that is $35 trillion in debt. Let that sink in. The world flipped upside down. Sanity became insanity. Prudence became recklessness. Saving became hoarding. For years, you had to endure the psychological torture of the price smash. You bought it $25. It went to $18. You bought it $28. It went to $28. Every morning you woke up, checked the price, and saw red. Every morning, the banks slammed the paper price down at 10 a.m. to demoralize you. This wasn't just market volatility. This was psychological warfare. The banks knew that if they could break your spirit, they could take your silver. They wanted you to capitulate. They wanted you to say, I give up. The game is rigged, I'm selling. But you didn't sell. You held on. You kept stacking. When the price dropped, you didn't cry. You bought more. You cost averaged down. You tightened your belt. You drove the old car so you could buy another tube of Eagles. You skipped the fancy vacation so you could buy a 100-ounce bar. Why did you do it? Because you saw something they didn't. You saw the math. You saw the debt clock spinning out of control. You saw the money printing. You saw the supply deficit. You saw the truth behind the curtain. Living in the truth while everyone else lives in a lie is a lonely existence. It isolates you. It makes you question your own sanity. Am I wrong? Is the market right? Why is everyone else getting rich on Nvidia while I am sitting here with this heavy metal that does nothing? This is the burden of the contrarian. It is the burden of Cassandra, the figure from Greek mythology, who was cursed to see the future but destined never to be believed. You saw the inflation coming before the Fed admitted it was transitory. You saw the banking crisis coming before Silicon Valley Bank failed. You saw the war on cash coming before the CBDC pilots launched. You were right. You were right about everything. But being right and being early feels exactly the same as being wrong. And for a long time, it felt like you were wrong. But today is different. Today, with the repo market seizing up, with the banks begging for liquidity, with the premiums skyrocketing, with the buy button disappearing, the narrative has shifted. The brother-in-law with the Tesla stock? He's quiet now. The financial advisor? He's sweating. The cousin with the crypto? He's looking for his password. But you are sleeping like a baby. You are looking at your stack, and for the first time in a long time, you don't feel the weight of the metal. You feel the lightness of freedom. The gaslighting is over. The reality check has arrived. The crazy conspiracy theory has become the front page news. The barbarous relic has become the only life raft in a sea of red ink. This feeling you have right now, it is not just relief. It is vindication. It is the deep, soulful satisfaction of knowing that you stood your ground when the entire world told you to move. They tried to break you. They failed. They tried to shake you out. They failed. They tried to mock you into submission. They failed. You are the survivor of the greatest psychological operation in financial history. You survived the bear market of the mind. And because you survived the winter, you are the only one prepared for the harvest. We need to acknowledge this pain. We need to acknowledge the emotional toll of the last decade. Because if we don't acknowledge the struggle, we cannot fully appreciate the victory. This isn't just about money. Anyone can get lucky and buy a lottery ticket. This was a test of character. It was a test of conviction. It was a test of faith. You had faith in sound money when sound money was dead. You kept the flame alive during the dark ages of fiat. And now the sun is rising. The fiat system is burning to the ground, consumed by its own lies. And rising from the ashes is the shiny, undeniable truth of silver. The asylum is closing down. The inmates, the central bankers, the politicians, the pundits are being exposed as the lunatics. And you, the crazy stacker, are walking out the front door, vindicated, validated, and victorious. Let's dig deeper into the mind of the stacker. Why did you survive? What separates you from the 99% who are currently panicking? There's a concept called the Remnant. It refers to a small group of people in any collapsing society who hold onto the old truths, the eternal principles, while the civilization around them descends into chaos. You are the remnant. The psychology of the remnant is built on skepticism. You learned early on not to trust the official narrative. When the government said inflation is 2%, you looked at your grocery bill and said, liar. When the bank said your money is safe, you looked at the fractional reserve ratio and said, liar. This skepticism is a survival mechanism, but it also creates a callus. It makes you tough. The average investor is soft. They have been coddled by the Fed put. They believe that if the market drops, Daddy Powell will save them. They have never experienced real loss. They have never experienced real scarcity. You have. Even if you haven't lived through a depression, you have lived through the depression of the silver price. You have learned to live without the dopamine hit of daily gains. You have learned patience. This patience is your superpower. In a world of short attention spans, of TikTok finance, of zero DTE options, the ability to buy an asset and sit on it for 10 years is a superpower. It is low time preference. Low time preference is the mark of civilization. It means sacrificing today for a better tomorrow. It means planting a tree under whose shade you do not expect to sit. The fiat system encourages high time preference. Consume now, borrow now, spend now, eat the seed corn. By stacking silver, you were rejecting the culture of immediate gratification. You were banking your labor for the future. You were building an ark while everyone else was throwing a pool party. And let's talk about the lone wolf mentality. Most people are sheep. They find safety in the herd. If the herd runs off a cliff, they will run off the cliff too, because at least they aren't alone. To be a stacker, you have to be willing to walk away from the herd. You have to be willing to be the black sheep. This requires a level of ego strength and self-reliance that is rare. It means you validate yourself internally, not externally. You don't need CNBC to tell you you're smart. You know you're smart because you did the reading. But there is also a dark side to this psychology. We have to admit it. Sometimes we wanted the collapse. Admit it. There were days when you watched the news and part of you whispered, let it burn. Not because you want people to suffer, but because you wanted the lie to end. You wanted the charade to stop. You wanted the laws of mathematics to finally apply. This is a natural reaction to living in a fraudulent system. The desire for justice, the desire for the scales to balance. The vindication we are seeing now is the balancing of those scales. The repo crisis is the system admitting it is broke. The silver squeeze is the system admitting it lied about the supply. And now the psychology shifts again. You're moving from defense to offense. For years, you stacked out of fear. Fear of inflation, fear of collapse. But now as the price rises, that fear transforms into power. You realize that you are not just protecting your wealth, you are multiplying it. You're realizing that you hold the leverage. The banks are short, you are long. They need what you have. This reverses the power dynamic. For the first time in your life, you are the one setting the price. You are the one saying, no, I won't sell for $30. No, I won't sell for $50. I know what I hold. This realization changes your posture. You walk differently. You talk differently. You are no longer the victim of the bank's manipulation. You are the beneficiary of their stupidity. The psychological victory is overcoming the Stockholm syndrome of the fiat system. Most people are in love with their captor. They love the dollar. They defend the Fed. You broke free. You realized the dollar was the cage. And now as the cage bars bend and break, you are standing outside, waiting to help others. This is the crucial transition. You cannot remain the angry loner. You must become the wise guide. Because when the panic hits, and it is hitting now, the people who mocked you will come to you. They will be scared. They will be confused. They will say, you were right. What do I do now? If you say, I told you so, have fun being poor, you lose the moral victory. But if you say, it's okay, I prepared for this. Let me show you how to survive. You become a leader. The psychology of the stacker must evolve from survivalist to steward. You are the steward of the remaining wealth of the middle class. You are the keeper of the seed capital that will rebuild the local economy. This mental shift is harder than buying the metal. It requires grace. It requires forgiveness. It requires you to let go of the resentment of being gaslighted. The vindication isn't about rubbing their noses in it. It's about being strong enough to pull them out of the mud. We often talk about the greatest wealth transfer in history, but we usually talk about it in dollar terms. My silver went up 10x. I have more dollars. This is small thinking. This is fiat thinking. The true vindication is not having more dollars. It is having more purchasing power and more influence. Money is crystallized energy. It is the ability to move things in the physical world. It is the ability to command labor and resources. When the fiat system collapses, the hierarchy of society changes. In the old world, the one dying right now, the people with the most influence were the ones closest to the money printer. The bankers, the politicians, the tech bros with inflated stock options. They produced nothing, but they commanded everything because they had access to the cheap credit. In the new world, the resource-based economy, the people with influence will be the ones holding the collateral, the ones holding the real things. You. Imagine a scenario where the dollar has hyperinflated, the local bank has closed its branches. Credit cards are working intermittently. The grocery store shelves are thin. The guy with $10 million in a 401k is panicked because he can't access it, or it buys nothing. He is theoretically rich, but practically poor. Now imagine you. You have 5,000 ounces of silver. You have a few ounces of gold. You can walk into a farmer's market and buy food. You can walk into a hardware store and buy tools. You can pay a contractor to fix your roof. You become the provider of liquidity. In a liquidity crisis, the person with the liquid asset is the king. You become the local banker. Not a usurer, but a facilitator of trade. Your neighbor needs to buy medicine, but has no cash. You buy his lawnmower for 10 ounces of silver, so he has the means to survive. You aren't exploiting him. You are providing the only market that exists. This shift in status is profound. You go from being the crazy uncle to being the pillar of the community. People will look to you for stability. Your wealth gives you a voice. When the town council is debating how to handle the crisis, they will listen to you because you are the only one who isn't broke. When the local church needs a new roof, you are the one who funds it. This is what wealth transfer really means. It transfers the power to shape society from the parasites, Wall Street, to the producers, stackers. And think about the generational impact. The vindication is for your children. For years they saw you stacking. Maybe they thought it was weird. But now they see that dad's weird hobby saved the family farm. Mom's coin collection paid for their college, or the new equivalent of education. You have broken the chain of debt slavery for your lineage, while other families are wiped out, forced to sell their assets to BlackRock for pennies. Your family is acquiring assets. You're buying the land. You're buying the businesses. This is how dynasties are built. They are built during crises by people who held hard assets. The Rothschilds, the Medicis, they understood this. Now, you understand it. You are moving from the working class or middle class to the asset class. And once you cross that bridge, you don't go back. But this power comes with danger. We discussed confiscation. We discussed envy. Being the new rich in a collapsing society puts a target on your back. This is why the vindication must be quiet. The victory lap is internal. Externally, you must remain the gray man. You don't buy a Lamborghini with your silver profits. You buy a farm. You buy solar panels. You buy anonymity. The influence you gain should be subtle. It should be the influence of the man who sits at the back of the room, but whose nod decides the vote. This wealth transfer is also a transfer of values. The fiat system promoted values of debt, consumerism, and short-termism. The silver system promotes values of thrift, production, and long-termism. By becoming wealthy, you are giving those values a platform. You are proving that honesty works. You are proving that patience pays. You are validating the moral argument for sound money. The vindication is the triumph of the Austrian school of economics over the Keynesian school. It is the triumph of reality over fantasy. And as the silver price climbs, $50, $100, $500, remember that the number is just a scoreboard. The real game is what you do with the points. Do you replicate the old system, or do you build something better? You have the capital now. You have the power. The world is being reset, not by the WEF, but by the collapse of their lies. And in the vacuum that follows, you get to decide what fills the space. We need to talk about responsibility. I know nobody likes that word. We prefer liberty or freedom. But freedom without responsibility is chaos, and you are about to have a lot of freedom. The vindication of the stacker puts you in a position of immense responsibility. You built an ark. You saw the flood coming when the skies were blue. You hammered the wood. You pitched the hull. You endured the mockery of the neighbors who asked, "Why are you building a boat in the desert?" Now the rain is falling. The water is rising. The neighbors are drowning. What do? Do you lock the door and laugh, or do you throw out a rope? The true victory of the stacker is not just saving yourself. It is having the capacity to save others. You are the preservationist of civilization. When the currency dies, the division of labor collapses, the supply chain breaks, hunger sets in, violence rises. The unobtainium phase we discussed creates desperation. Your stack is the seed corn. If you eat it all yourself, the future dies. If you use it to replant the economy, the future grows. This means you need to think about how to deploy your silver strategically. You don't just spend it on consumables, you spend it on productive capacity. You invest in a local farmer so he can buy seeds. You invest in a local mechanic so he can buy parts. You lend at fair rates to a young entrepreneur who wants to start a business that serves the community. You use your silver to jumpstart the local economy that the banks have abandoned. You become the venture capitalist of the rebuilding phase. This is the biblical Joseph principle. Store the grain during the 7 fat years so you can feed the people during the 7 lean years. You have done the storing. Now comes the feeding. This responsibility also extends to education. You were right about the system. You understand how money works. You understand the Fed, the debt, the manipulation. Most people don't. They are confused. They think the inflation is Putin's fault or corporate greed. They don't understand the mechanics of debasement. It is your duty to teach them, not in a "I told you so" way, but in a "here is how we fix it" way. Teach your children about sound money. Teach your neighbors about barter. Teach your community about self-reliance. Your knowledge is as valuable as your metal. The metal keeps you alive. The knowledge keeps you free. And you must prepare for the emotional burden. It is hard to watch friends lose everything. It is hard to see the retirement accounts of your parents evaporate. You will feel survivor's guilt. Why did I make it and they didn't? Because you listened, because you acted. Do not let the guilt paralyze you. Use the guilt to fuel your generosity. But be careful. You cannot save everyone. The ark has limited space. If you try to save everyone, the boat sinks. You have to prioritize. Family first, tribe second, community third. This requires hard choices. It requires discernment. The Vindication is not a fairy tale ending where everyone lives happily ever after. It is a gritty, survivalist reality where the prepared thrive and the unprepared suffer. You are the captain of the ark now. You have to steer it through the storm. The silver squeeze is the wave that lifts you, but the ocean is rough. There is also the responsibility to defend the truth. As the system collapses, the powers that be will try to blame the stackers. They will call you speculators and hoarders. They will say you caused the shortage. You must stand firm. You must articulate the truth. I didn't cause the shortage. The money printing caused the shortage. I merely protected myself. You must control the narrative in your local circle. The Vindication is fragile. If we allow them to rewrite history, they will make sound money the villain again. We cannot let that happen. We must ensure that the next system is built on gold and silver, not on CBDC tokens. Your stack is your vote. By holding it, you're voting for truth. Do not sell that vote cheaply. So here we are, the end of the road, the end of the script, the end of the world as we knew it. We started this journey talking about a $17 billion repo spike. We talked about unallocated accounts, force majeure, pension funds, and gold-backed currencies. We connected the dots from a bank failure in New York to a mine in Mexico to a vault in Shanghai. But all those dots lead back to one place. Your hand holding a physical ounce of silver. That small, heavy, shiny disk is the center of the universe. It is the anchor. It is the truth. The Vindication is complete. The system is folded. The banks have bent the knee. The price discovery is real. Imagine the day, maybe next week, maybe next year, when you look at the screen and silver is $100, then $200, then $500. You don't feel excitement. You feel calm. You walk outside. The air smells the same. The birds are still singing. But the world has changed. The debt clock has stopped spinning because the debt has been defaulted on. The Fed is irrelevant. The COMEX is a ghost town. And you? You are still standing. You look at your hands. They're the same hands that scrubbed toilets or typed on keyboards or turned wrenches to earn the fiat to buy the silver. They are working hands, honest hands. And now, they are the hands that hold the future. You did it. You beat the bankers. You beat the central planners. You beat the algorithms. You beat the greatest Ponzi scheme in human history simply by opting out and buying a rock. It is the ultimate underdog story. The little guy versus the empire, and the little guy won. So, take a victory lap. Pour yourself a drink. Look at your stack. Touch the metal. Listen to the ping of a silver eagle. That is the sound of freedom. That is the sound of victory. But don't stay in the victory lap too long. There is work to do. The world needs rebuilding. And you are the architect. The crazy silver stacker is crazy no more. You are the visionary. You are the prudent man. You are the victor. Hold the line. Hold the metal. Hold the faith. The storm is here, but your house is built on rock. Or rather, it is built on silver. Thank you for listening. Thank you for stacking. Thank you for being the remnant. I am John A.G. The squeeze is over. The victory is yours. This is the end of the report, but it is the beginning of your new life. Godspeed, and keep stacking.